Well, one of the very first steps of the framework is to reframe your thoughts. Our thoughts sometimes are selfish. To say there's judgment out there and I'm being looked at and criticized for every word, or what if I don't know the right thing to say? And it's true for all of us. Even on the labels we put on ourselves, introvert, extrovert, are they excuses preventing us from doing what we should be doing, or want to do, I should say?
Shelley, it's an honor to have you here today, and I'm super excited. Welcome to the Who You Know Show.
Trevor, it is really exciting to be here. Your energy is infectious.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I like to raise up the energy, okay? It's early. You know what I'm saying? It's early.
Yeah.
We got to wake them up. So I'm excited to have you here. This topic, specifically for me, has been one of my biggest challenges. I remember years and years and years ago when I got into financial services, there was a question. I was at a conference. They were like, hey, what is that one thing you know is sticking out that would transform your life? What's that one challenge that you need to overcome? And I wrote it down on a piece of paper, circled it, and it was this thing called public speaking. I was terrified of it. I was absolutely just like, I literally would run and hide in the restroom when I knew that I was going to have to speak. I would hide. And I know for a lot of people, public speaking is the number one fear in the world. And so I'm super excited to have you here. And I know you have a framework, okay? Remarkable speaking framework. Can you tell us a little bit about that framework? And then what also helped you and inspired you to develop that?
Well, first of all, congratulations for you for facing your fears, because look at you now. There is no holding back in your conversation. And you talked a little bit earlier about having a seat at the table. For me, it came down to, I actually deserve that seat at the table. And the question was, am I sitting in a chair or a throne?
Hold up. Mic drop. Wow. Did you just hear what she said? She said, hold up, I deserve the seat at the table. But am I sitting in a what or a throne? What did you say?
A chair.
A chair or a throne? Come on, somebody. Let's go.
With that whole idea, because like you, that's how I had started in a career of design and marketing. It was hard for me to get up and speak. So I figured, how could I be in the limelight but be behind the scenes? And until I really looked at my chair, if you will, and turned it in my head to say, no, I'm empowered by this. And that whole journey really was the inspiration to create the framework, the Remarkable Speaking Framework.
Okay, so tell me what is this framework? Like, how do we structure? Is this for keynote speaking? Is it for, just talk to me a little bit more about the framework.
The framework is a system that I combine from sprints, quick writing sprints and speaking sprints, and grinding down the message within minutes to create your main ideas, your big ideas, and your messages, and put it all together to work for any speaking engagement, for any audience about any topic. And the framework is so pliable and flexible, you can change it within minutes. And I've done it. Seconds before I'm about to go live, there's a change in the structure. Shelley, we need you to speak for 30 minutes instead of the original 90 minutes. The framework, within minutes, I was able to reshift things and still get my message across.
Can this work with maybe bigger bodies of work, like let's say a book or maybe a course, something like that? Can that framework translate over to something like that, or is it just more for like stage speaking, podcasts, stuff like that? Tell me more about it.
Excellent question. And the answer is yes. I actually used it myself to prepare a book that I'm writing. And you can use it for anything, because the idea is to have your big idea. Crystallize your big idea. What's the one thing you want the whole world to know? From there, each supporting story, example, experience you've had, mic drop moment, if you will, has to interconnect back to that big idea. And once you have that structure, you've got all your content ready to go, and you speak from what you know. That could be in a course. This is what I know, and this is what I'm teaching you. That could be in a book. This is what I know. This is what I'm teaching you. It could be a podcast. So many different variations of having a voice, speaking up and making that story of yours become verbal to the world.
Well, I love that. And before we dive deeper into some of your framework and all of that, I'd love to address maybe what I was talking about in the very beginning, which was that fear aspect, because I think so many people, their voice is like lying dormant within them, and they're just afraid to use it. And I'm not exactly sure. Well, I think I know what it is. I know for me, it was a fear of judgment, right? And it weighed heavy on me. Like, and I think probably more than some people, just because of my past and what some of the things I'd been through in my childhood. So what would be some things that you would recommend for someone to do if they know, like, hey, I got a message, I need to get this out there, but boy, I tell you what, I got stage fright like crazy. What would be some things that you would help that person to do to get out of their own way?
Well, the very first steps of the framework is to reframe your thoughts. Our thoughts sometimes are selfish. To say there's judgment out there and I'm being looked at and criticized for every word, or what if I don't know the right thing to say? And it's true for all of us. Even on the labels we put on ourselves, introvert, extrovert, are they excuses preventing us from doing what we should be doing, or want to do, I should say? When we reframe those ideas and reframe those labels, and we take the focus off of ourselves and realize, hey, for example, you've got this podcast. People come in to hear you. They want to hear what you have to say. They're listening to me because they want to hear what I have to say. There's not a judgment holding me back or holding them back. They are welcoming us. Now, everybody's not going to agree with you. We can't control that, but we can control what we know and what we believe in. And we have to accept that that's good enough by reframing these labels.
Yeah, I think that somebody said this to me one time and it just clicked. It was like, you're not that cool, man. People aren't thinking about you all the time. What? You know what I mean? Like, people aren't just laying up at night, like, thinking about what you said all day long. Even if you got up on stage and you delivered a keynote, right? Like, 24 hours later, people aren't thinking about you that much, man. Like, you're just not that cool, okay? Maybe unless you're like you're Tony Robbins, okay? People are going to be like, oh, like talking about you for weeks probably after they hear you speak. But man, you know what I mean? Like, that helps take some pressure off, right?
Well, absolutely. The people have busy lives. We have no idea what their morning was like, what the day before was like. Did they have, an argument with a friend or a loved one? We don't know. And unless we know, why are we bringing up or creating these constructs in our mind that they exist? If we get past that, we realize most people want us to be here. They're rooting for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, when I had that fear where everyone was looking at me, right? Like all the eyeballs were on me. It's not even real. They're not all looking at me. Again, how arrogant you got to be to feel like everybody's looking at you. Okay. Everybody's looking at you. You know what I'm saying? And that was the fear keeping me from getting some eyeballs. Heck, kept me from getting on stages and talking and speaking and all of that. So anyways, yeah, get out of your own head, right? I think that's something that you talk about, is getting out of your own head, and taking the focus off of you right? Can you explain more about that part of it? Get out of your own head. I understand that, but taking the focus off of you, tell me more about that.
So exactly, when you reframe your thoughts and you realize that the people you're speaking to are there to hear what you have to say, think about what you have to share with them. How are you there to help them? It's not about you anymore. It's about how you feel to say, I want to share this great tidbit, this great thing I found, this great discovery or object I created. And when you share that story, and we talked a little bit about story, or people did in the earlier rooms, it's like, yes, share that story, take the focus off of you. How can you serve the people that are there to listen?
That's good. That's good right there. Like, because imagine you had something that you knew that could save the world. Okay. Like you have this like big thing that could just absolutely save the world. You would be excited to tell everybody about it, right? You would be like, because it's not about you. It's about like, there's a bigger purpose, a bigger why, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, so if your message, so think about what your message is for a minute. Think about what that is, and, you know, get sold on your own message, I think is powerful too. You got to get sold on your own message because again, if we can talk about it in a way, again, like this message could save the world, you would be excited to share. You wouldn't let fear get in the way. You wouldn't let anything get in the way. You would just tell everybody, right?
Yeah. Yeah, of course you would. And, you know, it's about a community. One of the key things, it was a book I read in 2018 called Sprint, where a group of techies came together and realized that when teams were designing as individuals and creating products and working on their own in their own silos, the ideas and the, new innovations weren't as great as the ones that were done in collective groups. Meaning when we share ideas collectively, just like what you're saying, let the world know, somebody else is going to say, wow, that's me too. Just like what you're saying, even with the fear of speaking, how many people on this stream is going, yeah, that's me too. Now we have community. And the second part of the framework is really about empowering yourself, taking ownership of that and realizing it's not just me. I've got something to share. And all of a sudden, we're out there doing it because we're not alone, and those judgments fade away because there are people that are there that are just like me, that are thinking like me, that are feeling like me. Let's do it together, and let's change the world together.
Yeah, that's really strong too to understand that because yes, like I'm not ashamed to share the fact that I used to be like terrified of public speaking. I'm not ashamed of that. Right? Because, gosh, so many people, it's the number one fear. Everybody's afraid of public speaking. Come on. You know what I'm saying? Even the greatest, like the greats, they'll tell you they still get nerves. Okay. It's different for them and it's different for me now, but it's like, I now learn how to channel it into energy and passion. And I've learned how to use that fear, but I still get afraid. I get nervous. Right?
But Trevor, that's great. Because you want that nervous energy. And the idea is, like you said, to reframe that energy into how I can repurpose it for excitement. Because you want that motivation. And that end might first come over as I'm nervous, reframe it to I'm excited. And that's your motivation. So we want a little bit of those, the adrenaline flowing to get us motivated and moving.
Yeah, imagine if you had zero fear, zero, like, you'd get up there, you'd probably be boring. You get up there, you're like, today we're going to talk about, right? What was that, that clear eyes? Well, it's like monotone, like, you know what I'm talking about? That guy's not afraid at all. He's got no passion. There's no spark in that guy. There's no fear. There's no nothing. It's just clear eyes.
Well, I'm not been sure, having purpose is really what drives and motivates me. And for me, when I'm coaching people on speaking, have a purpose. I mean, you have an opinion on something, good, bad, or indifferent, strong opinion, light opinion. That purpose of getting your message out for whatever reason is what drives you. And when you own that purpose and you believe in it, then all the energy comes with it, all that excitement, or if it's even sorrow, at least that's the honest, authentic piece that comes from taking ownership and having purpose.
Well, I think what you said there about, sharing like that is, in a way, like, think about it. We do this every day. Okay. We do this every day. Let's say you go to a restaurant that you love. Oh my gosh, I went to this new restaurant. It was freaking amazing. They came out and the service was awesome. The food was off the hook. You gotta go there, man. You gotta go. Right? Like, I'm just sharing. Why am I sharing that? Because I want other people to experience the same thing that I did, right? So that's what I was saying earlier about, like, if I knew I had something that could help others, serve others, that others would enjoy, that others would get value from, just like the restaurant, right? I'm going to go up there and share it. And you know what I'm saying? And so that's why you're saying connecting to your why. Why are you sharing this message? And if your why doesn't serve other people, what about that? What if your why is a selfish why and it doesn't really serve others? Is that okay?
I don't know how you would understand that, because if you believe in it, right, wrong, or indifferent, that's the message you want to share. It's what you know. We can't guarantee it's going to serve somebody. We don't know how they feel, but we could just say, this is how I feel and I want to share it with you. Now, people may have a difference of opinion. That starts a really interesting conversation. People could agree with you. That starts another really interesting conversation. You got to start with what you know and what works for you, and know that eventually at some point there will be an audience that will support that or enter a new conversation. And that's really the root of where we come. If you start out wanting to try to do something that you're not sure about, that's where the doubt and the fear comes in and the judgment. And it's not true.
So I want to shift it just a moment, because you said what you know, okay? And on this show, we always talk about what you know is important, but who you know can make all the difference, okay? So what does who you know mean to you? Okay, we talked just a second ago about what you know, but what does who you know mean to you?
Well, for me, it comes from a servant's heart, I guess. It's who you know that you could lift their voice. I'm a public speaking coach. I'm all about being able to emote and speak and share your inner voice. And I believe there's a whole community of underserved people that don't feel they have a voice. Maybe they don't have the education or the access to speaking. It could be, just an underserved group that doesn't have access to these means. And who you know is helping people have that voice that don't have that access. How can I reach them and help them become their best realized selves?
That's good. I really, really, really like that. It reminds me of Danelle Delgado. She says, she has a quote that she says, who loses if I don't win? Right? Like, if I don't overcome this fear and get up on that stage and tackle this beast called public speaking and share this message, who loses? Because they weren't able to hear it. You know what I mean?
That's right. And we all just want to be heard. We want to be heard. So if we could reach out to people that don't know us, it's who you don't know, to bring them up, to bring them into the world of who you know. How can you share that and bring people into the front? Because we just want to be heard, and we deserve that right.
I love that. I love it. Okay. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You deserve it. You deserve the throne, not the chair, right? Okay. So, you talk about mic drop moments. I talk about mic drop moments, but mine are a little different, I guess, maybe. Tell me about your mic drop moments, and how can speakers create these experiences during their presentations?
So as part of the framework, I mentioned sprints and things of that nature. And when you get into experience of actually taking that sprint and grinding down your message, meaning you'll start with a timer. You'll speak your big idea in 60 seconds. Then you grind it down to 30 seconds. Can you say the same message in 30 seconds? Then you go back up to 60 seconds. What happens is within that free flow time of having the pressure force you to say what you really feel or what you really mean in such a short amount of time in those sprints, mic drop moments happen. You'll say the most profound things that are deep, deep in your subconscious, that are creative, that are there. And those words just transcend to have greater meaning. You can't write the way you speak unless you're a scriptwriter, a professional scriptwriter. They have a specific talent for that. But most of us, when we write a script, it comes out a little forced. It sounds a little too professional or too much like, a white paper. And nobody wants to hear that. But when you let yourself go and do these sprints to just speak one rep after the other with constraints of time, that's where the magic happens and the words flow.
I like that. So, okay. Taking the time, it reminds me of recently worked with 10X Stages, Pete Vargas and those guys. And they made you craft your message, right? And they had a framework and they had you craft your message. And I want to say it was in 3 minutes or 2 minutes. I can't remember exactly, but man, it was so hard. Like the shorter it got, the harder it got, right? You would think like the longer, if I have to give an hour long keynote, like, no, get it in 2 minutes. Like, whoa, that's so hard.
How about 30 seconds? I mean, I start with 90 seconds. We go down to 60, we go down to 30. And I've been doing this for years. And I cannot tell you how the pressure of time just forces your brain to get there in ways that you can't even imagine. You're in that flow state. You're in that higher level of consciousness that could drive you there. And that's what's so magical. You're not overthinking. There's no time to ponder or hesitate. Boom. Because it's what you know. It's there. It's stored in your temporal lobe in the back of your brain. It's your memories, your experiences. It's what you know and what you remember. And when you release that, again, that's where the magic of the mic drop moments happen, from the constraints of time. And it can be done. And once you crystallize your big idea, your process in 30 seconds, you know it so well, you can talk about it for 2 hours, a half-day immersion, a full-day seminar, 20 minutes. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so with my audience, I have a lot of career changers, right? They're out of work, okay? In transition and trying to get back to work, right? And they're dealing with rejection. They're dealing with their bank account going backwards. They're dealing with being ghosted by employers. They're having to apply online. They feel like something's wrong with them, and they're beating themselves up over their resume. Okay, what's wrong with my resume? It's not really the resume. It's just the way the system's set up, the way they have to apply these days. And so, like, I have this whole message and talk about how we can overcome a lot of that stuff, right? But I can boil it down to a simple quote, and it's, "You're more valuable than the words on your resume." Like you're worth more than that, right? And they feel like the resume is the issue, and it's the thing that they're going crazy over. But it's like, you're more valuable than that. And when I say that to them, it hits them. When I tell a career changer that, I'm like, you are so much more valuable than the words on your resume. It hits them, right?
But what you know, and all your experiences and stories and mic drop moments in the world that you've experienced, that transcends beyond the words. That's the meaning behind the words, because they want to see your X factor. They want to see who you are, what type of employee you're going to be, what kind of colleague you're going to be, what type of designer you're going to be, or marketer, or can you lead with compassion? Are you a critical thinker? All those things come from between the lines of the resume. And I think something also interesting that you said was about all this rejection. Well, Byron Katie has a great quote. She said, you can get anything you want if you accept 1,000 no's. And imagine if you started out your day by saying, how many no's can I get? How many no's can I get? That's your objective for the day. You would be surprised at how, one, it's like, wow, I've accomplished something. I got 3 no's, but you'd be surprised how many of those will actually be yeses.
It's so true. Okay, so I do financial services, right? And I teach my team. Like, I was just talking about this subject the other day, and I'm like, look, we got this list here. These are all people that are in the process, right? We're working with them, and I'm like, I am so okay with a no. Like, I want my team to feel okay with the no. I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to be angry. I'm not going to be like frustrated at you. Why did we get a no? What's going on here? Yeah, I might want to dissect it to figure out how we can improve. What could we do better? How could we, you know what I'm saying? All of that's great. And I'm like, but I'm not going to be upset with the no. I want no's. What I don't want is this like gray area. Think about it. I like, we've got to get to a decision one way or another. We're either moving forward or we're not. And that's okay. If we're not moving forward, that's totally cool. But if I have a whole list to think about it, and we really got a problem, we're not helping people to make decisions. And that's what our job is, to help people feel confident in making a decision one way or another. It's okay. But just think about it. That serves no one. That serves no one. So I'm totally cool with the no's. I agree with you. Get as many no's as you can. Well, maybe not as many as you can, but get through them so you can get to the yeses. Also, I was talking with someone earlier about another one of my colleagues. I was talking to him about, I said, you know what I think one of my superpowers is that I am not afraid to fail, but I got to do it quickly. Okay. So that I can dissect it. And I can figure out how to pivot, right? I'm not afraid to try new things. I get my hands into things. I'm trying things out. I'm like, boom, boom, boom. I want to go, but I got to do it quick. And the reason I brought this up with him was because I noticed a situation where he was just doing the same thing over and over and over and over. And I was like, dude, come on, man. Like, you didn't pivot at all. Like, you noticed you were getting the same exact reaction 100 times and you didn't pivot at all. There was no change. There was no like, hey, let me try it this way. Like, come on, man, we gotta learn from the lesson, you know? Anyway, so I'm okay with no's. I'm okay with rejection. I'm okay with failing. All of that's great. It's necessary, actually.
It's the mother of invention. If the Wright brothers and many, many others who were in aviation at the time didn't keep failing, we wouldn't be flying around in planes, let alone to the moon. Failure is the mother of invention, and that's getting messy, making mistakes. It's like a blooper reel, right? The blooper reels are what people look for. It's the truth. It's fun. It makes us human. It makes us laugh. Turn that into something fantastic. The mistakes is where the innovation happens.
Absolutely. What's that quote? Was it Thomas Edison figured out 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb or something like that? How does it go? Right?
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. He failed that many times, but that's what it took to get the one time right, I mean, you're absolutely right. Failure is the mother of invention. See, there's the mic drop. Was that original or someone else say that? I don't know.
I'm sure. Look, none of this is new. We're all just,
right,
reshaping things in different points of views and opinions. So, I can't take too much credit.
Yeah, failure is the mother of all inventions. I don't know if that was your original. I'm gonna find out. No. We're gonna Google it. I'm gonna Google it.
It is not my original statement. I do subscribe.
I'm gonna make a quote card with your face on it and that quote, okay? You're like, don't do that, don't do that. That was somebody else. Well, okay, let me ask you that. Let's talk about that for a second. What about the remix? Okay, because like you said, there's very few original ideas anymore, right? Like I feel that way. I mean, they're still out there. There's some people that just are gifted with some originality, but most things have been what I call chopped and screwed. Okay, it's been remixed. So how do you feel about that? Like I know personally, I saw a lot of hate towards Jay Shetty, and I don't know if this is factual or not, so I'm not getting in the middle of it, but I just saw a lot of hate towards Jay Shetty because it was like he was just stealing everybody's stuff. And somebody else was like, he's remixing everybody's stuff. And then there's this guy, Evan Carmichael. Love that guy, actually. And everybody talks about how he's really good at repurposing and reshaping and remixing everybody's stuff. They call him like like a DJ almost for all this motivation and stuff like that. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Gosh, I love digging into this because this is your X factor, meaning you build a company. No one else is going to have your way of processing it. You are launching a podcast. You're having a podcast. No one is going to say it the way you do. You and I are sharing all these ideas about stage fright and having mic drop moments and reframing things. It's similar, but we don't do it the same. We do it differently within our own way. Again, that is our X factor. That is what takes us to our voice. Here's how I explain it, how I share it. And that's what makes us unique and individual. And back to that statement about resumes and people hunting for jobs, that's what interviewers want to hear. How are you going to handle it specifically? What's your approach? What's your innovation piece? There's a really interesting story. Some of you know Pee Wee Herman as Paul Rubens was this great comic. Well, he was a stand-up comedian and he couldn't remember his lines. He would flub his own jokes over and over and over again. He almost, he didn't almost, he got booed off stage. It was horrible. But he had a bag of props when he went onto the stage to do his comedy routines. And he just started pulling stuff out of the bag, his props, and playing with it and making goofy, jokes about the stuff he had. And Pee Wee Herman came out of that bag of tricks. So you could take a bad comic or a bad situation and turn it into something fantastic just by being open to it. And he changed the way he did comedy with his own perspective. No one else is going to do it just like he did it.
Reminds me of also, what was it, Gallagher? Smashing fruit and stuff like that. Oh my gosh, Dave Chappelle has a skit on that. That's hilarious. Yeah, we won't get into that, but it's hilarious. It is hilarious. I love Dave Chappelle. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about how a speaker, what strategies can a speaker use to bridge the gap and really build a rapport with the audience, right? Let's say you're going in there. I know one of the first things that you want to do, well, at least when I listened to Pete Vargas, they were talking about you really want to connect, build rapport, like almost that's the first thing you want to do, right? Would you agree with that? Or is your framework a little different?
Well, I think, yes, ideally, that is the success of any speaker is how will we connect to the audience? Are they clicking with what we're saying? Absolutely. That's effectiveness for sure.
What are some ways that a speaker could do that, like right off the bat? Like, hey, they just handed me the mic. I can walk up there, connect. I want to connect with that audience immediately. What would be some ways that you could do that?
Well, one thing I work with clients is approach every talk, every opportunity to talk as a conversation. Even if you're standing on stage in front of 100 people, approach it as a conversation. You're engaging with people. And once you have that approach, you're not talking at people, you're talking with them. You're sharing your ideas and you're open to that space of, what do you think? Now, there's always, where there can be an engaging element where, you make it interactive and people could respond and you can ask questions, raise your hand, put something in the chat, have a Q&A. But the idea of, I'm not telling you something, I'm sharing something with you as a conversation. And that mindset, that reframing, is a way to connect.
Mm. What about, let's talk about stories, right? They say facts tell, stories sell, right? Have you ever heard that?
Yeah.
You heard that? Yeah. Facts tell, stories sell. I don't know who said that either. I'm remixing it, right? Well, actually, it's not a remix. It's like verbatim. I don't know who said it first, but facts
You're
tell.
staying here today.
Yeah. Today, it's my quote. I own this quote. Facts tell, stories sell, okay? And it's true, right? Like, I feel like the facts, the data should support the story, which the story connects emotion, right? And people buy on emotion or connect on emotion. And so talk to me about that. How can someone, like, also even in these podcasts is great. Like, some of the best episodes that we do are the ones that somebody's sharing a story, a personalized, message that, man, people just connect with. So talk to me about that. What's a great way to interject stories into your message? And you even think about Jesus did this all throughout the Bible. He would tell parables, right? So what are some ways to do that?
It's all about your experiences and your stories, because a story explains everything. It explains how you feel. It explains what happened. It explains the data point. You can start out with an idea and a moment and a story, and you have this complex information you have to get across to the team. But yet there are people in the audience that are laymen. They don't understand. They've never heard this before. And then you have the experts. So how do you convey complex information to a variety, of audience members? You share a story, because that story, that experience will not undermine the person that's the expert. They'll take it as, wow, credibility. This person knows what they're talking about. And at the same time, that story explains something to the layperson who doesn't understand in a way that's not over their heads. They could comprehend and engage with and connect with and take it as a learning experience. So stories are pivotal. They are every single bit to do with how we speak and converse.
So I was actually teaching my team to create a talk, okay? And one of the gentlemen that I was working with, his story was up and down and up and down and up and down. I mean, it was all over the place. Like, he was trying to tell the story, but it was just too much. And it was like literally highs and lows, highs and lows, highs and lows, highs and lows. And it's like, hard to follow. Like, where's this going, man? Like that's what I was thinking in my head. I'm like, where is this going? Like, what's the message, the core thing that you're trying to teach me or tell me? Because it was just like your whole life's journey. I'm like, some stuff is okay to remove, right? We don't have to put it all in, right? Can you talk to me about, have you heard of, I'm sure you're probably familiar with, like, the hero's journey, and like, do you teach that, or is that something that, like, talk to me about that? Is that something you agree with, and would you align with that, or do you teach something maybe a little different?
Well, we all have a hero's journey. Our story is our journey. We all start somewhere. We all have had a first job. We all had a first something, a first time we've rode a bicycle, a first time we learned a foreign language, a first time we drove a car. Our lives are filled with firsts, and that journey is our journey. That's our experience. And it's very important to make that part of the conversation and a part of your talk, and to the piece where, how do I know what to share and what's oversharing? Well, that's where the sprinting technique comes in from the framework, because when you could distill it down from 90 seconds or even a 20-minute rambling speech to 90 seconds to 60 seconds to 30 seconds, you realize that not only can you get your idea crystallized in such a short amount of time, but those short sprints help you to craft your message in such a short amount of time that you're not over talking, because we have to give our audience a chance to digest what we're saying. And speaking in short segments allows that space. I say something, you hear it, you connect, now we move on. So the framework kind of helps you to get to both those places in a way that makes sense and is helpful to you and to the audience.
Is there any place for just winging it? Like I know I got a message, like, Lord, help me to deliver this, okay, and reach your people today. I trusted you to flow through me, and let's just rock, roll, and let's go.
Yes.
Is there any room for that?
What it is. I mean, I don't coach people on how to write scripts.
Oh, okay.
I say ditch the script.
Oh,
you can
ditch the
prepare
script
by unpreparing. Have your crystallized big idea. You've got to know your purpose and your one main big idea. You have your supporting stories, experiences, examples, data points. And the whole idea is, once you know those stories and you could reflect and reveal on those stories, that's your script. Reliving your experiences, retelling your stories is your script. It doesn't have to be written. And it's all about being impromptu and all about being able to shift and pivot, because stuff happens, right? Your talk, like I said earlier, I've been on stage where they said, Shelley, you've got I prepared for a 90-minute webinar, and the link didn't work and the event didn't start till almost half past the hour. On the fly, I had to completely re-edit my speech. If I had it written out, I had no time to rewrite it. But with the framework, I was able to move elements around, and boom, 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 I was ready to go. And I did a 90-minute webinar in less than 60 minutes without having to stress over it.
That's good. I love that. See, I'm the type that, for me, preparation is one of the things that will allow me to overcome that fear. Even in these, in these interviews, like right here, like what the audience doesn't understand or see is that I've got notes behind the screen here. Okay. Now I let the conversation flow, but I've got a framework. I've got notes up here. I got questions, that are prepared in advance. So I have preparation that gives me confidence. And it probably wouldn't be the same. I don't know if it would be better or worse if I just, maybe the next interview, no, but I got to do good by the guest. I was just thinking, maybe the next interview I'm going to throw away the notes altogether. Let's just see how it goes.
Well, some of the greatest interviewers in the world, and I'm talking about Larry King, these Oprah, they've done 30, 50,000 interviews, and they always approach the interview as an opportunity to learn something. And there's nothing wrong with having a few notes. The framework gives us a structure. There's a difference between that and having a written out word by word script that we're speaking. So you have a couple of questions. That's exactly right. But you're willing to let that narrative go, let the agenda go, because if you hear something interesting that I say, or something that happened in the conversation, that you had with another person this morning, that takes the conversation into an innovative, unrevealed way, That's where you want to go. You need to listen to the audience you have before you.
Active listening, absolutely.
That's where the magic happens too, right? Because, discover things that you didn't even know were there before. Those are the mic drop moments that you can't plan. And you're like, well, let's go with that. So that's the idea of having that flexibility of having a structure, but not verbatim written down in a long, exhaustive speech. That's the difference.
Ditch the script, right?
Ditch the script.
Okay, so, because I'll tell you, I've been on shows like that, been on podcasts, I've been on a lot of podcasts, and I've had some where it was like pulling teeth. It was like nails on a chalkboard, because it was like they had their questions, and I would stop and pause after I answered a question to give them an opportunity to get in conversation, right? Conversation has a back and a forth. It's got a flow, right? I'm like, and I would give them a pause after I'd answered their question. I would pause, smile, and guess what? They were right to the next question. And that next question had zero to do. Like, it didn't flow. It wasn't a natural flowing conversation, right? And I'm like,
they weren't listening. You didn't hear me. You don't feel heard.
It was gross. I'm like, and I've been on several of those interviews like that where I'm like, man, this is an interrogation, not a conversation.
It feels that way sometimes, but you really don't feel heard. And again, that's what we want more than anything, is we want to be heard. We want to be heard. So elevating that voice, having that voice, is so important to know that what you have to say is okay. It's important to you. And that is where it comes from. And if people don't just hear you, but are listening, that changes the conversation.
That right there, what you just said, I think is key to this whole thing. The audience wants to be heard and seen, right? Like I think about when I've watched other people speak, and like connecting to the audience in a way where like literally there could be thousands of people there, but they feel seen and heard, right? What are some things? So what are some ways you can do that? Like, are there any like hacks or tricks or anything like, or is this just, again, like any strategies there to where you can make the audience feel like they are seen and heard?
Well, we can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do. That's for one. But we can, as I mentioned earlier, have that conversation. Approach the talk as you're here to share some great information, and leave it at that. Leave it at that. Simply, I'm trying to here today share information. I'm sharing my process. I'm sharing what I know about speaking and how I can help people. That's it. Take it as a nugget and do with it as you may. I mean, Queen Elizabeth II had a great quote that is, just admired a lot in the leadership world. And it was like, I have to be seen to be heard. And, this was the Queen of England for 70 years. Who didn't see her? But she understood the meaning of what it meant to be seen, to see her for who she really was, not as a woman dressed in a cloak with millions of dollars worth of rare jewels, but as a compassionate, humor, was a servant of her country. It wasn't about going to wars. It was about how can she serve the people? How she was there for them. That's what it meant to her. And that's the idea of being seen. Do you understand who I am and what I have to offer? So the tip is, stick to what you know and share it as a conversation, not as something you're selling somebody that they have to do.
As you were talking, what I was visualizing, and you even said the word humor, I thought about some comedians. And like, comedians are some of the best communicators on the planet. Like, they really are a good comedian, right? Because they connect with you. Man, they connect with you. Like, and you're just busting out laughing. Why? Because they're connecting with you. And so I think about that, and I'm like, okay, a comedian, and even some of the best keynote speakers I've seen in the world, a lot of times they're interjecting humor in. Ryan Leake, he's phenomenal, but he's funny. Ryan Leake, he's a great speaker. Anyway, I was thinking about when you were saying that, one of the things I was thinking about was asking questions, like if you want to connect with the audience, asking a connecting question that, and you don't always have to say, raise your hand if, right? You don't have to say that. You could just simply say something like, is anybody ever here ever da-da-da-da-da, right? Anybody, and you don't even have to tell them to raise their hand. I've seen a lot of, was it like Tony Robbins? He always does, I think he says something like, say I, right? Like, if you've ever had this going on, say I. And the whole audience says I, right? And he's getting them to agree. Yes, that's me. I've been through that, right? What do you feel about those, like asking questions?
Well, that's great because you're opening ideas as a conversation. I mean, one thing I want to just back up on is the idea of you're not trying to click as a speaker with your audience. You click yourself with your purpose. It's the audience. It's up to them. Do they click with you? Do they find you a funny comedian? Did they find you a powerful speaker? Is there something you said that moved them at the time you said it? And that's not anything I can control. That's what the people listening can control. We don't want to be an influencer. We want to be influential. And to do that, just to be yourself, just live in your thoughts and your purpose.
Boom. That's a mic drop right there. I like that. You don't want to be an influencer. You want to be influential.
Long-term, just inspiring people, sharing your vision. And that's how we mentor people, right? I don't set out, hey, I'm a mentor, or how do I find a mentor? I found mentors because I saw people that were doing things that were so magnificent and moved me in such a way when I heard what they said that I asked them to work with me as a mentor. And I hope I can do that for others as well. What can I share with you and help you with? And asking those questions, back to that question you brought up. It's all about asking questions, not making about you. What makes somebody else tick? How do they feel? Here's what I feel. How do you feel about it?
That makes sense. And those are connection points. And like you said, makes it about them, not you, right? When you're asking questions, it's making it about them, not you. And you know what? Takes a little bit of pressure off of you too, I think, in my opinion. What I'm saying, anybody ever been through the da-da-da-da-da? Anybody ever had da-da-da-da-da-da? Raise your hand if you've had a ba-ba-ba-ba-ba, right? Like, it kind of puts the ball in their court, right?
That's right. I coach so many people that I coach that are keynotes at conferences or they're leading facilitations. I do my best to have them bring up an interactive element. Bring the audience in. And I've had people speaking to stadiums of 100 or 1,000 people actually, and had everybody get up in a theater where the seats are bolted to the floor and have breakout sessions. Just after 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just to get people engaged and involved. Now you're having conversation. You're asking questions. You're saying what matters is important to me. What you think matters to me. And it's reciprocity. It's all about, what do we think about this? How can we raise the level of consciousness and the voice for everybody?
Actually, when you said that, you're 100%. Tony Robbins does that, okay? Tony Robbins will pause and get you to do an activity right there with the people around you, okay? Whatever the activity is, he will give you the instructions and he'll boom, and they put a timer up there, and next thing you know, he is the master. I will tell you, I've been to 2 Tony Robbins events, and he is the epitome, in my opinion. I love him. He's a master. He's the epitome of that Maya Angelou quote where it's like, they'll forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. They'll never forget how you made them feel. And I always leave those conferences like, oh yeah, wow, like I'm feeling like, you know what I'm saying? That the way he makes people feel. But if you asked me, 2 weeks later, hey, you just went to Tony Robbins. What was it about, man? What'd you learn? What was the big takeaway? What was the aha moment? I'm like, I don't remember. But it was awesome. It was amazing. And you need to go because it was so great, right? He made me feel a certain type of way. But I don't know what I learned.
That in there is the key, and also proof that you could ditch the script, because they're not going to remember what you say anyway. People remember how you made them feel in the moment they heard what you said. They're not going to remember every word. As a matter of fact, I think it's something like people forget 50% of what you told them within an hour they heard it, and upwards of 70% they forget within 24 hours. Don't spend hours crafting a speech that no one's going to remember. Tell those stories how you felt them, how you relived them, how you revealed them, and let them feel it.
That's so good. That's so good. Why are we spending all this time? They ain't gonna remember you anyway. It's like we were talking in the very beginning. People ain't thinking about you all day long, okay? They're not thinking about you all day long, so you spend all this time crafting this message and people aren't even gonna remember. So make them feel good and they'll remember that. Make them feel a certain type of way. And that's why I think, you see a lot of motivational speakers is because that motivation, they make people feel something. E.T., Eric Thomas, he makes you feel something, right? You feel it.
It's infectious. I'm feeling your energy right now. And that's really what it is. Again, we can't make people do something, but if we share our energy, we share our passion and our excitement and our purpose, that's where the energy flows. And from that energy, we have the words. So it's a trusting thing, right? Trust that it's there within you. And that's what we're responding to. That's their energy we're taking and saying, wow, this is great. I could share this. That's what's infectious. That's what sticks.
Absolutely. I agree with that. People, like, energy's a real thing and energy rubs off on people. You know what I'm saying? Like, it literally does. You can transform someone else with your energy. If you've ever met that person, maybe you were in a funk, okay? You're in that funky mood, okay? And then someone comes across your path that is just lighting things up. And their positivity and their energy is contagious. And they're smiling and they greet you and just like, I don't know, it just rubs off and will lift your energy up. Again, Tony Robbins, he's the master of this. I mean, when he's getting up there and he's doing this number, right? He's getting you pumped, right? And that energy that he has carries over into the audience. And then they start, it's like a ripple effect in his audience, man. I mean, his energy carries and it just flows through the entire place. So for me, I like to be a student of some of the greats and figure out, like, how do they do it? What are they doing? What are some things, and again, you want to be yourself, but also I like to try and emulate and figure out, hey, how could I use maybe this, what this person does? How could I interject that? I like it. There's a reason why I'm connecting with it, right? So would it fit? Would it work? Do you recommend that people do that? Kind of look at the greats, study the greats, emulate the greats, and figure out how they can make their own style with it, like their own unique voice with it? Or again, just kind of like winging it and seeing, what's more natural?
Well, I think we're all inspired or influenced by many, many people. Like you even mentioned earlier, like, where'd that quote come from? We've heard things and they may be back on deep in our subconscious. And then we have this eureka moment and it's like, oh, no, I actually heard that 4 years ago, so-and-so said it. It's the influence of so many things. We want to share information. And this is really where the framework comes together. Embody everything you feel and your passion. And when you go out and you listen to a great speaker and you're moved by their words, the thing to take away is they were so connected to their story. How can you be connected to your story? By embodying this whole idea of reframing, empowering, mic drop moments, activating, articulating, just really, really embodying that whole belief, ownership. I'm on the throne. And everything you've seen from other great speakers is what they're doing, exactly that, embodying their belief. And it doesn't always have to be happy-go-lucky. Sometimes we truly have a bad day, or we're not in a great mood, or you have to deliver some really difficult information to somebody, some really hard news or, sad news. Honor that. It's honest. That's what we want. We want how you honestly feel, and embodying that is what great speakers do. So yes, listen, be inspired, and then embody it where it fits you, where it feels right for you.
What you were saying just kind of reminded me a little bit of, I went to a conference recently, and there was a speaker there that had everybody close their eyes and visualize, basically where they would be if every one of their dreams and passions and things that they want to accomplish, because this is a business conference, right? So everybody's there trying to grow their business and do amazing things and all of that, right? So he's speaking into our dreams and saying, hey, if imagine 5 years from now, everything that you've wanted to do is done. You're at that place, right? And so you're visualizing where you are. You're like, wow, what that life looks like. And you put in the work and you did all the things necessary. You over the last 5 years, you've been doing this to get you there. And then what he did was crazy, because you're like visualizing, you're like, I got it done. And here's my life now. And you're like, yes, this is awesome. And then he had you visualize, now imagine that you haven't done anything and you're in the exact same place you are today, 5 years from now. And oh my gosh, it was like someone just punched you in the regret of not doing the things necessary, the shame, the emotional. The audience, everybody in that audience was crying. I started crying. Everybody there, because he took you through, and everybody was visualizing it. He had you close your eyes, and he took you through this transformation of your life, and then now imagine you didn't do a thing. You're in the exact same place you are today, right? And took you through that vision. It was so powerful. It was probably one of the more powerful, speeches that I've heard. It was very, very powerful. But listen, I could talk to you all day, Shelley. This has been really cool. This is something that for me, public speaking and all of this, again, it was my biggest fear, my deepest, darkest, biggest fear.
Wow, look at you now.
And well, I appreciate that. And I think a lot of times the enemy, wants to lie, kill, and destroy. And so he wants to take your gift and he wants to use it as a weapon against you. He doesn't want you to live this out. If speaking is your gift, a lot of times your gift is wrapped in fear. It's wrapped in your biggest fear. So I tell people, if you overcome that fear, right, on the other side of that is confidence. On the other side of that is boldness. On the other side is your dreams, everything that you want. And so, but you got to overcome the fears. And so that's why this conversation to me really, really means a lot. It's something that I literally could talk to you about for hours and hours and hours. So we're a little bit over time already. And I want to respect your time. Thank you for being gracious with that. I would like to, if you have a minute or two, maybe go to the audience and see if they've got a question or two here, if that's okay with you. If you have any more time, if not, I totally understand, because we've already gone over 10 minutes.
I would love to. I would love nothing more than to engage in conversation with the audience.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording in here. Guys, over there on the podcast, we appreciate you. We love you. And listen, whatever your dreams are, you can accomplish them too, okay? A lot of times, again, your biggest dreams, your biggest gift, your purpose, a lot of times it's wrapped up in fear. So overcome that fear, and I promise you, all your dreams and your mission and your purpose is on the other side. But that's the show. It's all about who you know. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Who You Know Show podcast. My name is Trevor Houston, and if you've enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing wherever you listen and leave us a positive review to help us keep the mics on in the studio. Until next week, that's the show. It's all about who you know.